Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Property Mummers podcast. Today, we are going to be going through T's property journey. So, T, a bit about you.
So I'm a mum of two living in Hampshire, but I was born in London. I am a business owner and writer and have had an interest in property since my teen years.
So, how did you get onto the property ladder?
Not the traditional way.
So, what do you mean by that?
Well, most people will save a deposit and get a mortgage. That's the traditional way of getting onto the property ladder. And don't get me wrong, I saved a lot pretty much as soon as I was as soon as I left school, really, because that's when I got my first job. And it was a job in London, so it paid quite well. And so my first property investment was a joint venture, as you know, since obviously you were the one I joint ventured with.
Yes, that's true. So, can you tell our listeners a bit more about the this joint venture of ours?
Yes. So in our last episode, we covered you and your property journey, and at one point you sold your flat. So when you sold your flat, you only used a little bit of that towards your residential, and we agreed that you would or we would use the remaining funds from the sale of the flat, along with my savings, to purchase a property outright. And this meant that I would have somewhere to live, rent free or mortgage free, and that we would both benefit from the property increasing in value over time.
So, how did you find the purchasing process?
So the purchasing process was fairly easy for me. Obviously, there were less hoops to jump through. It was just a matter of making sure I had a solicitor in place. And the property hunt itself, I had an idea of where I wanted to buy. I didn't want to buy in London, but I didn't want to be too rural either. I also had the prerequisite that I wanted to be close to you, so I had that, family dynamic nearby. My son was very young then, and that was important to me.
How did you choose the area, and what area did you end up?
So I kind of looked at a few different areas that were in Surrey, but on the border of Surrey, so it was easy to get into London. One of those areas was Horsham.
Mhm.
One of those areas was Redhill, and another one of the areas I looked at was Guildford. So those three areas I kind of did a bit of research on. I knew they were close to stations that could get me into London, and they had all the amenities I needed, schools, etc. So I searched in those three areas.
So, what sort of property were you looking for?
I was looking for a 1 or 2 bedroom. It's similar to your journey, actually. So flats were within my price range, or within our price range. But also, I think we'd both come to the conclusion that this wasn't going to be a forever home. As it was a joint venture and we knew that we wanted it to go up in value, it was something that had to do that, obviously, but also had the potential for other strategies, such as renting it out at a later date. Um, so I looked for 1 or 2 bedrooms with potential.
Mhm.
So I didn't mind putting down a bit of flooring or putting some paint on the walls and things like that. A couple of the flats that I looked at, although they were 2 bedrooms, they weren't in the greatest condition, but not so much surface level. It was on a deeper level. So I know one of them had a case of rising damp, and that's something that I wanted to avoid. Um, so despite the fact that that property was sizable and it would have been great for us, again, it wasn't the one. So ultimately, I continued to look and I found one in Redhill, which was also a 2 bedroom, but it was a slightly smaller 2 bedroom. Um, and it had parking space, it had a garage, it had communal garden, and it had a good school nearby. So it ticked all of the boxes that I needed. So the property was on the market at 235,
Mhm.
235,000, and we got it for 227.5, which of course is not that much of a difference, but looking in that area, that's sort of the rate that properties were going for. As I said, I did my research and I did look at some sale prices and things like that. And I think the flat that ultimately I decided on had been sold for only slightly less than that. So I knew that was kind of what they were looking for. Um, it didn't really need any work doing to it, and that was okay because I knew the area that it was in. It was so close to a station. I could get into London really easily. I knew it would go up in value. House prices had been going up in value in that area for quite a long time. So it was a steady market in that area. So ultimately, that's what I went for. I bought that with the intention of down the line, perhaps doing a couple of relatively large things, i.e., changing the boiler, getting in a new kitchen or bathroom suite. But for the time being, it was good to live in. So I was able to move straight in. And at the same time, I knew that that would have really good rental value. And yeah, it was an investment, basically.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, even the area itself, it was, it's on a nice street, and yeah, like you say, station not far from the flat in the town centre. So yeah, it very good. It was very good. It was a very good investment.
Exactly. And also, another thing to note is that there were developments that were going to be in place. They'd already put in permission for developments within the town centre. So again, that was going to add value to the area itself. They had developments for like a large cinema and a large shopping centre and things like that. So yeah, it was a very sought after area.
So, when you actually got down to the nitty-gritty, I mean, like you said, there was no mortgage. How long did it take to actually purchase the property?
So the process itself was fairly quick. I think it took in total about a month and a half, probably. Yeah, so like I said, I only needed a solicitor. Yeah, it was a pretty hands-free service, similar to what we offer at rppnl.com. A little plug there.
Nice one. Do you have any tips or advice or suggestions that you can offer to our listeners that might help them who might find themselves in a similar situation to yourself?
Yes, I mean, even if you don't have the large deposit that I had and you're not joint venturing with somebody, I think this advice stands. If it's not going to be your forever home, look for a property that can make you money down the line. I think the great thing about what we did is we went into the property purchase, yes, with the idea of me living there, but also with the idea of down the line, that property was going to make us money. And that was going to be either through reselling it because it's gone up in value or through renting it out, which is what we do now. So, yeah, I would say just look for a property that's going to make you money down the line. Look for a property that has that potential to be an investment, even if you are planning on living there in the short term or even in the long term, because you never know how your circumstances can change over time.
That's very true. That's very true. So I think, unless you've got anything else to add, maybe we should end this podcast.
Yes, that's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.